In this video, we're going to go over how to use Excel to help us with calculations involving Chebyshev's theorem. Remember, Chebyshev's theorem is the theorem we have to use when we don't know that our data set is normal, or we know that it is not normal. And the first part of Chebyshev's theorem works out really similarly to the empirical rules, and that's where we want to know, hey, what range of values includes a certain percentage of the data. So just like in the empirical rule setup, we have to tell Chebyshev's theorem the mean and the standard deviation, and then we can set up a calculation to find the lowest number and highest number in the range of values. So we'll use this example here, where the mean is $50,000 and the standard deviation is $10,000. So for Chebyshev, we know that the range that includes 75% or more of the data is from the mean minus 2 times standard deviation all the way up to the mean plus 2 times the standard deviation. So there's our range of values that includes 75% of the data or more. For 88.89% of the data or more, it is the mean minus 3 times standard deviation all the way up to the mean plus 3 times the standard deviation. And those calculations there should look really similar to what we did in the empirical rule video. But Chebyshev's theorem has a second part to it, which helps us go the other direction for not so nice numbers. So a good example of this is, what if I wanted to know the percentage of homes that are priced between $37,000 and $63,000? Well, that's not either of these ranges, so I can't find an exact number from this kind of pre-established percentage setup. But Chebyshev's theorem has this kind of fancy calculation you can do, which is you can find the k value, in other words, how many standard deviations above or below the mean is your top or bottom of your range. And then you can use this formula right here, 1 minus 1 over k squared. That will tell you what percentage of data falls within your range. So to use this, first thing we have to tell the spreadsheet is, well, what's the top of the range? And in this case, the top of the range is $63,000. They tell us that right here. We're going to use that number to find k. And this calculation is going to be open parentheses, the top of the range minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. That will tell us how many standard deviations away from the mean this number is. And in this case, it is 1.3 standard deviations away from the mean. So now to finish our calculation here, we can figure out what percentage of values will fall within this range. So percent of data in range. And I'm going to drop that right down here. And right there. Equals, and it's going to be this formula right here. So 1 minus 1 divided by that number squared. And in this case, it tells us that about 40% of our data should fall in that range of values. Now, I'm going to do one thing here. We're going to change this ugly looking number so that it looks like a percentage by right-clicking, clicking on number format, and changing it to a percent. So now we get that 40.83% of the data will fall between $37,000 and $63,000 for this scenario here. So we have two different setups we can use here. In general, to answer any one question, you will only use one or the other, but sometimes they can both be used to answer a question, and they should both get the same results. Now, we didn't actually answer part 1 of this question, so let's do that right now. The price range for which at least 88.89% of the houses will sell. Well, if we look here, 88.89%, that's right there. So that price range is $20,000 to $80,000. So now we have added 2 new rules to our reusable spreadsheet, the empirical rule in the last video and Chebyshev's theorem in this video. We'll be putting these to use in our practice problems going forward.